It was the summer after my junior year, and I was done with camping. Or rather, camping was done with me. I had always hated the outdoors. The dirt, the bugs, the endless nights, and a sleeping bag that felt more like a coffin than anything comfortable. Yet somehow, my family had a tradition of dragging me into the woods every year, like some twisted rite of passage. My parents loved it. The serenity, the silence, the disconnection from the world. I just loved the idea of showers and Wi-Fi. This year, however, I managed to negotiate one thing. I could bring a friend. My best friend Mark, who had a knack for adventure and mischief, eagerly accepted. Unlike me, Mark thrived on risk. He saw camping not as torture, but as an opportunity for fun and perhaps trouble. The drive to the campsite was long, winding through roads that grew narrower and more secluded as we approached the lake. My stomach churned with both excitement and anxiety. The campsite itself wasn't what we expected. It wasn't deep in the forest or surrounded by towering pines. No, this site had a peculiar reputation. It was near an abandoned lake resort that had been closed for decades. The lake itself was eerie, dark, still, with the occasional ripple disturbing the surface as though something moved beneath. Our parents pitched the tents and began organizing the site, while Mark and I explored the edge of the forest, carrying flashlights and a sense of reckless curiosity. The sun had long set, and the only illumination came from the dim glow of our lanterns and the moonlight reflecting off the lake. We passed the old boathouse, its wood warped and rotting, the doors creaking like the groan of some ancient creature. Mark grinned. "You think anyone's been here lately?" I shook my head. "If anyone has, I hope they left quickly." The boathouse's door swung open slightly as we approached, though the wind was still. I froze, heart hammering. Mark nudged me forward. "Come on, it's just old wood. Maybe some raccoon or something." We stepped inside, and the smell hit us immediately. Damp decay, mold, and something metallic. I noticed a trail, a dark streak across the wooden floorboards, like someone had dragged something heavy. My gut twisted, but curiosity overpowered fear. "That's probably nothing," I said, though my voice lacked conviction. Mark pointed to a staircase leading to the upper floor. "We should check it out." The steps groaned under our weight, each one sounding like a scream in the empty building. At the top, a long hallway stretched into darkness. I shined my flashlight along the walls, revealing peeling wallpaper, broken windows, and the remnants of what used to be a dining hall. Then I saw it, a figure crouched at the end of the hall, partially obscured by shadows. I froze, unable to breathe. Mark nudged my arm. The figure shifted slightly, and for a split second, I saw it clearly. A man, disheveled, with dark stains across his shirt, and an almost unnatural stillness. His head turned sharply, eyes locking onto ours. Mark and I exchanged a look, a mix of terror and disbelief. We backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound. The floorboards beneath our feet protested with each step, and I prayed he didn't hear us, but he did. I could feel it. The hairs on my neck stood on end as he rose to his full height. We ran. No more stealth, no more caution. The stairs were slippery, and the old wood cracked under our weight. Outside, the forest seemed alive with every snapping twig and rustling leaf. I kept looking back, certain he was following. But when we finally reached the safety of our campsite, panting and wide-eyed, the figure was gone. That night, sleep was impossible. Every shadow outside our tent looked like movement, every gust of wind like the creak of footsteps. Mark whispered, "Did you see him clearly?" I whispered back, "Yes, blood, something wrong about him." The next morning, the camp manager called an emergency meeting. Apparently, a man had been found dead at the far end of the lake, stabbed multiple times. The suspect was still at large. A Authorities were warning all nearby campsites to stay alert. Mark and I instantly connected the dots. The figure we had seen, it had to be the suspect. The thought made my stomach turn. We didn't tell our parents, not wanting to ruin their vacation or incite panic, but the memory haunted me every moment we were there. The rest of the day was tense. Fishing, hiking, and even simple chores felt surreal, like we were walking in a world that wasn't real. Every sound in the woods set my nerves on edge. Mark kept joking to lighten the mood, but I could see the fear in his eyes too. That night, we made the mistake, or the choice, of sneaking back toward the abandoned resort. We told ourselves we wanted to see if there were clues, maybe even a glimpse of law enforcement at the scene. As we crept along the tree line, our flashlights bouncing erratically, we saw it. The man, again. This time closer, crouched by the water's edge, as if waiting or watching. We froze. He raised his head slowly, and the moonlight reflected off the dark stains on his face. For a moment, I thought I might pass out. Mark grabbed my arm. "Move slowly," he whispered. We backed away, careful not to make any sound, and hid behind a cluster of trees. He didn't seem to notice us at first, but then a subtle movement of his head made my stomach drop. His eyes scanned the woods, as if sensing us. We waited until he moved away, his silhouette disappearing into the darkness. Only then did we dash back to the campsite, adrenaline surging. That night, we didn't speak a word. We lay in our sleeping bags, silently processing the encounter, hearts racing, minds spinning. The next morning, we packed up quickly, eager to leave. The authorities had cordoned off parts of the lake area, and we got briefed on the ongoing search. Mark and I exchanged looks, an unspoken understanding passing between us. We hadn't caused trouble, we hadn't interfered, but we had seen the truth. A dangerous man, close enough to harm us, lurking in the shadows. Even now, years later, the memory stays with me. Sometimes when I'm near water or a quiet forest, I recall the creak of old wood, the smell of decay, and the shadow of that man. Mark and I rarely talk about it, but I know he remembers just as vividly as I do. That summer taught me fear, curiosity, and the fine line between bravery and foolishness. And though I survived, the memory is a constant reminder of how close danger can be, and how one wrong turn in the dark can change everything.
This happened back in the spring of 2018. The city had been buzzing with news of break-ins and strange sightings in alleys, especially near the older parts of town. Most of it was overblown, of course, but some reports were legitimately unsettling. I didn't think I'd ever be part of one of those stories, until I was. I was 17 at the time, a senior in high school. One Thursday after school, I was heading home from band practice, walking a familiar route through downtown. I usually took the main streets, well lit and busy, but that day, I decided to cut through a narrow alleyway that ran between two old apartment buildings. I didn't even think twice. It was short, it saved a few minutes, and I'd walked it 100 times before. My earbuds were in, blasting some playlist I barely remembered, and I had my phone out, scrolling through messages. I was completely unaware of my surroundings. The alley was quiet. Too quiet. Usually I'd hear the hum of traffic from the main road, maybe someone talking or a dog barking, but that day there was only the echo of my own footsteps. At first I thought it was just the wind rattling the dumpsters. Then I noticed a shadow at the far end of the alley. At first I assumed it was someone walking their dog or a delivery person, but the shape didn't move like a normal person. I slowed my pace. My heart was already picking up speed, but curiosity, or foolishness, kept me moving forward. I paused, just long enough to notice something in his hand, a glint of metal.
At first, I thought it was a screwdriver or some tool, but as he stepped forward, the light caught the blade of a long, serrated knife. My stomach dropped. I froze. My earbuds were still blasting music, and I hadn't even realized how loud my own breathing had become. Before I could decide what to do, he started walking toward me. Slow, deliberate steps, but there was a menace in the way he moved that made every instinct in my body scream at me to run. I bolted, heart hammering. The alley was narrow, lined with dumpsters and broken crates, making it feel like a maze. Every shadow looked like him. Every sound made me flinch. I risked a glance back and saw him. He was gaining on me, moving with this strange, almost mechanical stride. The knife glinted in the dim light, sending shivers down my spine. I tried to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. No one else was around. No cars, no pedestrians, nothing. Just me, the alley, and this man. I ran toward the exit of the alley, a small opening that led to a busier street. My mind was racing, trying to think of a plan. My phone was in my pocket, but my hands were shaking so badly that I couldn't even dial 911. I risked another glance behind me and froze. The man had stopped about 10 feet back, watching me. He didn't run, he didn't even advance, just stared. By some miracle, or perhaps sheer luck, I reached the end of the alley and burst onto the street just as a group of students were walking by. I shouted and they immediately called the police. The man didn't follow me onto the street. He just stood in the alley for a moment longer before retreating into the shadows. When the police arrived, I gave them all the details I could. By the time they went to investigate, he was gone. They said it might have been someone casing the area, looking for targets, but no arrests were made. I still don't know who he was or what he intended to do if he caught me alone in that alley. For weeks afterward, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might know where I lived or that he might come back. Walking home from school, even in daylight, I kept my eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. The experience stayed with me, a constant reminder of how quickly a normal day can turn into something terrifying, and how alone you can feel, even in a familiar city. Even now, I rarely talk about it. My friends know I had a creepy encounter, but they don't know the full extent of it. The fear, the helplessness, the sickening realization that someone so close could have caused real harm. I learned a lot that day about vigilance, instinct, and the thin line between everyday routine and danger. This isn't your typical horror story either, but it's one I still think about, even years later. Back in 2019, right after I turned 24, I was in this weird transition phase in life. I was juggling part-time gigs while trying to finish a certification online. My schedule was inconsistent, my income unpredictable, and like most broke young adults, my best friend at the time was Craigslist. One night, after a long shift bussing tables, I was scrolling through listings looking for anything that paid more than minimum wage. That's when I saw it. It caught my eye immediately. The job was in a neighboring town, only about a 25-minute drive from my apartment, but the details were what made it weird. The hours were 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Who needs a storage facility monitored at those hours? And the description was short. No mention of what exactly I'd be doing, no mention of what I'd be guarding. But the strangest line was this: applicants must not understand Russian. I remember rereading that sentence multiple times. I thought it had to be a joke, but it was there, plain as day. The awkward part was that my dad is Russian. I grew up speaking the language, but $32 an hour was insane money for me back then. So I applied. And within 4 hours, I got a response. Come in tomorrow night for orientation. Bring ID. No interview, no phone call. Just show up. That should have been my first red flag. It definitely wasn't my last.
The storage facility was way bigger than I expected. Not some small rows of garage doors. It looked like a small industrial compound. Tall metal fences, cameras everywhere, and a long driveway that felt abandoned and isolated. A security guard, heavy-set with a shaved head and thick accent, met me at the gate. "Name?" he asked.
I told him. He checked a clipboard, nodded once, then motioned me to follow him inside. He introduced himself as Mikhail, and despite his intimidating appearance, he had a friendly smile. But halfway through walking me toward the main office, somebody else stepped out from behind the unit. A tall, thin man in all black had a cigarette in one hand, and the moment he saw me, his expression changed. He started talking to Mikhail in Russian, fast and aggressive. He wasn't whispering or hiding it. He was testing me. I kept a straight face and pretended I had no clue what he was saying, even though I understood every word. The tall man stared at me for a few seconds, then smiled coldly and extended his hand. "Name's Victor. I oversee operations." His handshake was firm, too firm. I could tell immediately he wasn't buying my act. But he didn't push it. He just said, "Let's see how smart you are." They walked me into the main office building. Inside, everything looked normal. Monitors showing every corner of the facility, a small break room, and a radio I was told to use if anything unusual happened. Victor laid out the rules. I must stay inside the office unless someone buzzed the front gate. If someone showed a silver card, I should let them into Unit 19B. I was never to open Unit 19B myself, ever. If I heard noises, engines, voices after midnight, I should ignore them. And the most ominous rule was never to try to understand what the keycard visitors were saying. It didn't make sense at first. None of it did. But I needed the money, so I told myself it was just some strange requirement. For the first few nights, it was uneventful. I watched Netflix, listened to music, ate snacks, and occasionally buzzed in people with the silver cards. They came alone, stayed inside Unit 19B for 30 minutes or so, and left without a word. But then things started getting strange. One night around 2 a.m., I heard something slam from across the lot. Not a door, not a car, something heavy. Then yelling in Russian. I froze. It told me to ignore all noise, but this didn't sound like normal people talking. It sounded like fighting, struggling, dragging.
I checked the monitors. The camera facing 19B was glitching. Every other camera was clear. I knew enough to know that meant someone disabled it on purpose. The radio crackled. Mikhail's voice came through. "Stay in office. Do not look outside. Do not open door." His tone wasn't strict. It was scared. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some shady side business. This wasn't laundering money. This wasn't drugs. Something far worse was happening behind 19B. My entire body was trembling, but I listened. I didn't move from the chair until morning. About 3 weeks into the job, things went too far. A black SUV pulled up with no headlights. 3 men got out, dragging something wrapped in a tarp. Something big. They didn't buzz the gate. They had their own key. On the monitors, I saw them carry the tarp toward 19B. And then I saw it. The tarp moved. Whatever or whoever was inside was alive. I felt sick. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. They opened 19B. A harsh white light spilled out. A surgical light, way too bright for a storage unit. I turned up the monitor brightness, just enough to see inside. Inside were tables, metal trays, tools, and chains. Not a storage unit, a torture room. I slapped a hand over my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. One of the men looked straight up at the camera, straight at me. Then he shouted, "Vichy, Vichy смотрит." My blood turned to ice. He had seen me through the glitching camera. Before I could react, the office door shook violently. Someone was trying to break in. Then another voice shouted, "Open the door, now!" Victor. Heart slamming in my chest, I looked around for a weapon, but there was nothing, just a stapler and a plastic chair. The pounding got louder. The lock was about to give. I slipped out the back door, an emergency exit I had never used, and sprinted toward the highway behind the complex. I didn't look back, not once, not even when I heard shouting, not even when a car engine roared to life. I ran until my lungs felt like they were bleeding, ran until my legs gave out, ran until dawn. A trucker eventually picked me up and drove me to a gas station where I called a friend to take me home. I never went back, never answered their calls, never returned for my last paycheck. And thank God, they never found me. For months, I barely slept. Every time a car slowed near my house, I panicked. Every time I heard Russian in public, my chest tightened. I checked the news constantly, expecting to see a raid or arrests, but nothing ever came up. Whatever they were doing, whatever I almost became part of, it was invisible to the world. Even now, years later, I still get chills thinking about that storage unit, the tarp, the tools, the voices, the pounding on the door. I wasn't just a clueless employee, I was almost a witness. And witnesses don't stay alive long in places like that. I truly believe I barely escaped with my life,